Picture a man who commands every warrior in the kingdom. His words sends thousands into battle, yet he can never wear the crown. This was the Yoruba Balogun, powerful, essential, and permanently constrained. The system wasn't accident. It was brilliant political design centuries ahead of its time. In Yoruba city-states from Oyo to Ife, leadership split along a razor edge. The Oba held sacred authority, the Balogun held the sword. Two powers, neither complete without the other, neither able to subsume the other's role. It created equilibrium where conquest created chaos elsewhere. The Balogun wasn't just a general, he was war incarnate, chosen from proven warriors, elevated through elaborate ceremony that marked him as distinct, yet subordinate. He wore coral beads like royalty, but never a beaded veil. He commanded armies but performed no religious rites. The separation was absolute and visible. Every ritual reinforced the boundary. When the Oba emerged from seclusion and ceremonial procession, the Balogun walked behind, powerful but positionally clear about hierarchy. During military campaigns, the Balogun's authority became absolute. He decided strategy, divided spoils, administered battlefield justice. The Oba remained distant, sacred, untouched by war's pollution. This wasn't weakness, it was structural design. Neither could govern effectively without the other. The Oba lacked martial force, the Balogun lacked ritual legitimacy. Ambition met architecture, and architecture won. The system had teeth. A Balogun who overstepped faced not just resistance, but cosmic violation. He'd be challenging the fundamental order, sacred and social simultaneously. His own warriors, raised in the system, would resist transformation. The structure was self-reinforcing, embedded in everyone's understanding of proper hierarchy. Succession made it concrete. When an Oba died, the Balogun had no claim and no mechanism for claiming. Kingmakers selected from royal lineages through divination and negotiation. The Balogun remained Balogun, serving the new Oba as he'd served the old. Continuity through constrained ambition. Position wasn't hereditary for either role. Princes competed for the throne through lineage claims and political maneuvering. Warriors rose to Balogun through proven capability and support. Both offices renewed themselves generationally without hereditary stagnation. This prevented the formation of competing dynasties. It was fluid enough to allow talent, but structured enough to prevent chaos. Consider what this prevented. Across West Africa and beyond, kingdoms fell when generals seized thrones. The pattern was ancient and recurring. Give someone an army, they'll eventually use it to take power. The Yoruba saw this coming and built a system that made it structurally difficult. Difficult, but not impossible. When the system worked, cities prospered. When it fractured, they fell into chaos. During the Yoruba wars of the 19th century, the system began breaking down under pressure from internal strife and the slave trade's destabilizing effects. Baloguns in some cities accumulated power beyond traditional bounds. Sacred constraints weakened when practical survival demanded concentrated authority. Yet even in breakdown, the memory of the system persisted. The ideal remained. Power should be divided, checked, balanced. It wasn't romanticized nobility, but practical wisdom born from watching unchecked power corrupt. The British arrival found the system already stressed. Colonial indirect rule initially tried working through existing structures, but ultimately dismantled the balance by elevating Obas while marginalizing military leadership. They didn't understand the equilibrium they were destroying. What they saw as primitive dual leadership was actually sophisticated constitutional design. Modern Nigeria still grapples with military intervention in politics, coups and counter-coups that have punctuated its post-independence history. The Balogun system offers a historical contrast. Societies can structure themselves to prevent precisely this pattern. It requires cultural embedding, ritualized separation, and population-wide acceptance of constraints. Contemporary political science rediscovers what Yoruba city-states practiced. Civilian control of military requires more than laws. It requires social architecture that makes transgression unthinkable. The Balogun could command armies precisely because everyone knew he couldn't command the throne. The constraint was the source of trust. Other African societies developed different solutions. The Asante created a golden stool that couldn't be sat upon, making kingship about stewardship of sacred object rather than person. Dahomey used female warriors and administrative eunuchs to prevent military lineages from forming. Each system addressed the same core problem. How do you maintain force without succumbing to it? The Yoruba answer was elegant. Make power visible, formal, divided, and mutually dependent. The Oba needs the Balogun to project force. The Balogun needs the Oba for legitimacy. Remove either and the system collapses. Keep both constrained and the kingdom persists. It wasn't perfect. Strong personalities sometimes strained the boundaries. Cities occasionally erupted in succession conflicts when the balance tipped. But the system's existence, its centuries of operation, suggest it worked more often than it failed. Stability isn't absence of tension, but management of inevitable tensions. The system encoded that understanding. The Balogun knew his limits, the Oba knew his dependence, the people knew the structure. Knowledge prevented transgression. When we study pre-colonial Africa, we often look for kingdoms and conquest, the familiar categories of power and expansion that mirror European history. But the more interesting innovation might be the constraints, the systems designed to check power rather than concentrate it. The Yoruba Balogun system reminds us that some societies figured out problems we're still solving. They created institutional restraints not through written constitutions but through ritual and social architecture. The form was different, but the principle was profound. Power unchecked corrupts. The Yoruba saw this truth and built a system around it, one that gave command without giving conquest, that honored martial virtue without surrendering to it. The war chief who could never become king wasn't diminished by that impossibility. He was defined by it, made trustworthy through acknowledged limits. That might be the system's deepest insight. Constraint and trust are not opposites but prerequisites. You can wield power precisely when everyone knows you cannot seize it. The Balogun stood on the battlefield, thousands at his command, victory in his hands, yet the crown remained forever beyond reach. Not because he was weak, but because the system was strong enough to hold him and wise enough to know it must.